A lot of us growing up had stories read to us, and we even read stories ourselves, whether it was Mr. Men books, Roald Dahl, whatever. And somewhere along the way between childhood to adulthood, we kind of fell out of love of reading. I was almost this person, but fortunately for me, I had my older brother who was a positive influence, and I also read a few teen fiction books that kind of sparked my interest in reading. Personally for me, I've had a lot of enjoyment from reading, so in this video I want to kind of spread my enthusiasm and my journey with reading throughout my life. One of the first things to address in this video is the negative cycle of reading and how to break it. At school, many of us read books because we have to around subjects we do not find interesting at all. Logically, by doing this, we will form a negative association with that thing. It's just common sense. If you do something you enjoy, you form a positive association with it, so you want to do it. And if you do something you don't like, you'll have a negative association. And reading is no different with this. So to kind of get out of this rut, we need to read stuff that we actually enjoy and try and do it consistently. However, I understand reading isn't for everyone. You know, for example, for you auditory learners out there is Audible, there is podcasts, and if you're a visual learner but you still don't like reading, you can watch YouTube videos. You know, the internet has enabled so many different ways of learning. For me, and for many people who are avid readers, the emotions evoked from books are the same as some of the best movies and TV shows that I have ever watched. And for someone that doesn't read, you're probably there thinking, well, you've read a few pages and that means that it's evoked a great emotional response. And that might seem kind of crazy, but just hear me out. When you watch a movie, it is 1, 2, maybe creeping on 3 hours to watch. And with a TV show, yes, that is a little bit longer. But with a book, for example, especially if it's a series of books, it's a thick boy. It has a lot of information, and it gives you a lot of time to, get attached to the characters and become immersed in the storyline. By the end of the book, you've spent hours and hours reading it. So by the end, it's logical that you'll be more immersed, more attached to the characters, and will therefore have more of an emotional response by the end of the book. Whether that is anger, upset, happiness, surprise, whatever it is. With me and my journey of books, the first series that I read, I believe, was the Electrada series by Anthony Horowitz. I kind of read this series. I remember the storyline briefly, but I wasn't that invested in reading the books compared to the books that I read as I got older. And this author, Anthony Horowitz, he wrote other book series that I thought, okay, I'll give that a read as well. And then this led me onto a series called The Power of Five, again by Anthony Horowitz. I was more invested in this series. I can't say whether it was better or worse because I wasn't really fully invested in the Electrada series, but I do think it was a good series and as one of the first book series, if that's a word, that really sparked my interest in reading fiction books. As I got a bit older, between the ages of I think like 14, 15, I then read the Gone series by Michael Grant, and again, good series, really highly recommend it for any teenage readers if you're watching this video. But then for a few years, I do my GCSEs, I do sixth form, I start uni, I stopped reading and I didn't read any notable series of books. I would read sometimes if I, was in the summer holidays and had some free time, but none that were very memorable for me anyway. That then changed when towards the end of my degree, my older brother said to me, you have to read the Mistborn series, it's really good. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But I actually purchased the books and I gave them a go. Actually, that's a big fat lie. My brother gave them to me for my birthday. He gave me like a collection of the Mistborn series, like a big wad of them, and then I ended up reading them. And oh my god, the series was amazing. Within the first few pages, I was just encaptivated. It was amazing, and I won't give much away to the storyline, but what I thought would be the whole series of books ended up finishing in the first book, and then the second and third book was like, oh my god, no, this is actually what's happening. And that kind of expansive storyline happens with almost every single good book and TV show or movie, but it was still new to me to get that kind of experience from a book. After my degree, or towards the end, I then read a series of books called the Kingkiller Chronicles, which were both really good, similar to the Mistborn series. After that, and only recently, I finished the Stormlight Archive. So the Mistborn series and Stormlight Archive are by an amazing author called Brandon Sanderson, and he's done a lot of other books that I'm reading right now, for example, called Elantris. And then the Kingkiller Chronicles was wrote by an author called Patrick Rothfuss. Both these series of books are amazing. Both the authors are really talented and they really work hard. But I think Brandon Sanderson takes the mantle a little bit for me. It's because his twists and turns within the storyline, within the books, are amazing and really surprising. I'm usually really good at guessing the storyline and what's going to happen later on. Furthermore, with Brandon Sanderson, similar to the Marvel or DC universe, he's got something called the Brandon Sanderson Cosmere. Now, I'm not sure about the future of this and how connected the books were going to be, but there are signs that the books are actually within the same universe, even if it's a completely different story. And some characters, if you pay attention, will pop in and out of different books. I'm really excited as to where Brandon Sanderson will take the Cosmere and to how interlinked the stories will be within these books. But the books, whether it is Brandon Sanderson or Patrick Rothfuss, the books really stand out for a few reasons. Firstly, character development. Like, the characters and their actions, I very rarely go, well, why is this character doing this? If they do that, and I am surprised, it is a good amount of surprise. I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense, but it's a good surprise. Secondly, the immersiveness of the environment. The environment is so, I mean, for me personally, this depends on your imagination, but I can picture it so clearly in my head because of the amount of detail Brandon Sanderson and Patrick Rothfuss has planned and put into these books. The third thing, and again this relates more to Brandon Sanderson, but again Patrick Rothfuss is still amazing with this, is the storyline. It's so expansive and has so many twists and turns. Collectively, this means that the experience when reading the books is absolutely amazing and on par to some of the best movies and TV shows I've ever watched. I remember, and this is really cringy, I remember messaging Michael Grant on Twitter, who made the Gone series, and there was a song that I liked, and I was like, oh my god, this song would be amazing for this scene if the books were going to be turned into a TV show, because apparently they were at the time. And unsurprisingly, Michael Grant didn't really respond to some random 14-year-old asking him about suggestions about songs about his book to TV show adaptation. Shock. Anyway, it's been an amazing journey from the Alex Rider series to the Brandon Sanderson books. Anyone watching this video, if you're a teenage reader, I recommend the Gone series by Michael Grant and the Power of Five by Anthony Horowitz. If you're more of a mature reader, 16, 17, 18 older, I would read the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson, the Stormlight Archive, also by Brandon Sanderson, the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss, or really just any books by Brandon Sanderson. He's really consistent and he's really good author. Just a couple tips for anyone that wants to get involved in reading. I would say firstly, if you're unsure what fiction books to read, go on Goodreads or Kindle and look at some really good reviews. If it's had a lot of reviews, like a few hundred, and the reviews are anywhere between 4 to 5, it's probably going to be an enjoyable read. Secondly, try audiobooks. If you don't like reading the books physically, then put in some earphones and read audiobooks, because I do this personally, and whether it's doing some kind of mundane task like washing up or tidying my apartment, it's actually still enjoyable to my surprise, because I didn't think I'd enjoy listening to books because I'm more of a visual learner. But again, it's not necessarily about learning, it's the experience you have when listening or reading a book. Lastly, the last idea I want to touch on is being a lifelong learner. If you want to be a lifelong learner, then I think you kind of have to read. And this is not really true for fiction, because that's more for the experience. But if you want to be a learner, there is some knowledge and content that is not on a podcast, that is not on a YouTube video. And so therefore, if it's like a scientific article, for example, you need to actually get used to reading. There's a famous saying that I'm not really sure where the origin is, but it's not mine. And it's that a wise man learns from his mistakes, a smart man learns from other people's mistakes. And my way of justifying reading is that there are books wrote by people that are a lot smarter than me, a lot wiser than me, and they have nicely collated other sources from other people or their own experiences for my own enjoyment and my own insight. So I think to myself, well, why wouldn't you read that? Until Elon Musk flies in on his jetpack and digitally injects a thought into our head with Neuralink, I think reading is one of the best ways we can actually absorb information. However, again, for you auditory learners out there, I understand that podcasts and Audible is really good, and for people that don't like reading, YouTube is still a brilliant source similar to other platforms like Brilliant and Skillshare, etc. Today's video is more generic about reading, but a common theme throughout this channel will be making content for physiotherapy students. I also plan to make other videos about more generic content such as this, and I'll still try to make it interesting. Anyway, I hope you had a good day. I hope you found this video interesting and useful in some way, and I'll see you next time.